Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. It has been like a hot minute since I've been here on live. We are live streaming on LinkedIn and YouTube. So let me know in the comments area where you are tuning in from, which platform you're on, what your organization does. I am very excited today to talk about two of my favorite things. That's technology and specifically AI and monthly giving with a really good friend of mine, Tim Paris from Dataro. He's the CEO of Dataro, and I am fascinated by his tool. I have been able to talk to some of his clients that are blown away by the possibilities and the predictive analysis that's possible. And why I love talking about these different tools is because if you're at a certain place where you're looking to get more data analytics and insights and utilize tools that can help you make smarter business decisions in your growth and your retention and your scalability of your programs, I like search for these types of tools. And so, Tim, I'm going to go ahead and bring you on. I love it when I can come across a company that does something very innovative and different, all for the service of helping nonprofits. So, welcome.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dana. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So, will you give us a little bit of background? How did you come into the world of Dataro?
That is a good question. It all started with, if we go right back, I was an aimless post-PhD student, and I was consulting and working with a lot of different companies and different industries. And I had a lot of data skills. This is a while ago where data science was a new thing. And I started working with some nonprofits, started working with Greenpeace, and the first conversation we had with them, hey, we're losing too many recurring donors. We have this leaky bucket phenomenon. And we quickly realized, myself and my co-founder, that the solution to that problem was very much an AI problem. It was, how can we take all the data that they had, all the information they had about their donors, their recurring giving history, their age and their gender, who they were, which events they'd been to, which online programs they'd been a part of. And we could say, hey, we can get a pretty good guess, a pretty good prediction using AI at who is going to churn in the future. And we built some models, and we were really accurate at predicting churn. And then the next question became, how do we reduce churn? So we worked with them quite extensively, running a bunch of experiments to say, well, what are the best ways to reduce churn? Should we reach out with an email, with a text message, with a phone call? What should we say on that phone call?
Yeah.
And we found out in a range of experiments, like, hey, this is the best thing you can do. You can call up those donors really likely to churn, and you can thank them for their contribution. It reminds them of why they got involved with the organization and the cause in the first place. And what we found, we were able to reduce churn by a really large margin. So retention would go from 70%, churn would go from 70% down to 50%. So a real lift in retention.
Yeah.
And then we said, hey, this is powerful. This is hundreds of thousands of dollars for a big organization to be able to keep these donors on. And we said, we need to share this with the world. So we turned that from a couple of people working on laptops in a room in Greenpeace's offices to let's turn it into software and kind of get it out to the world, make it accessible, make it easy to use. And that's kind of brought us from Australia, I guess, where we started. Now I'm in San Francisco, but over to North America.
So cool. I didn't know that story, that it was like an in-house, just like working with AI to figure out what could happen, turning it into software. That is so cool, Tim. And welcome, Matthew,
Really
Jerry,
cool.
Nancy, Amy. So good to see you all here. Tim is going to be leading, this is just like a teaser session. Tim is going to be at the Monthly Giving Summit. I will drop a link if you're not already registered for that, leading a power lesson. I call them kind of like TED Talks during day one. And that is going to be using AI to grow monthly giving via existing donors. These are 15-minute kind of quick hit thought leadership sessions. Tim, who should join that room? Like, if they are wanting to do what would make them want to join that session?
So the AI technology I talked about there, it's not just good for reducing churn, increasing retention. It's really good for finding which donors are likely to convert to recurring. So if you want to grow your program, you want to acquire more donors, it's really good for that. It's also really good for upgrading existing recurring donors or reactivating the ones you've lost in the past. So that's just some out of the box things that you can do with the technology. But I think other stuff that's going to be really interesting about that presentation is we have been furiously analyzing a huge amount of data. So we have millions and millions of recurring donor data, donors, and transactions. I think hundreds of millions of recurring
Wow.
transactions. So we've analyzed all this data and we're going to present some insights. How is the industry changing over time? And what are ways in which you can leverage, I guess, what the best organizations are doing based on the data
Yeah.
that we can see.
Okay, I am obsessed with that, and I want to be in that session to listen to what all of those data points say. I think that's fascinating. I just put in the chat a link to the Dataro Recurring Giving Benchmarks report, and so sharing some sneak peeks from that. And Tim, I want to ask you: do you want to share your screen to talk about some like data stats, and then also share a little bit about what the tool looks like? I'm a visual learner, and so it's always helpful for me to understand, like, yes, AI, but AI is like seems very large. What do you actually need to put into the system? Is that cool?
Yeah, let's absolutely do that.
Okay,
Let's
sweet.
start with some. I got some product stuff here, but let's go broad. Let's start with some of the numbers because I don't know if anyone's a data nerd like myself. I think there's some really interesting stories in the data here. Okay, there's lots of charts. I'm just going to fly by some of these. Um, there's a lot of stuff. This is like a teaser, right? There's some really cool stuff to
Okay.
come. But I think some of the most interesting things. This is one. This is my favorite
Mm,
recurring donor chart. And this should look familiar to you and anyone who's run these programs for a long time. This is called a survival curve and effectively tracks the retention rate month on month. So here we have acquired donors at month 0 up to month 12, right? So of the 10
interesting.
million recurring donors we've looked at, we can actually track what is their survival rate, what is their retention across those 12 months. And of course, we see retention is very high on month 1. No one's left yet, but obviously month on month, they start canceling. So a program that originally might have had 100 individuals in it after 12 months might only have 53
Mm,
individuals in it. So that's the typical trend we see for a typical organization. But I think the trend that we're picking up on in the data is, if we come down here, if you can see it, we've analyzed data from 2019 up to 2020, which is the most recent data if we have to wait 1 year going forward. And we can actually see the retention rate has gone from 64% for a typical organization down to 54%. So we've seen this drop
wow.
in retention over time. Pretty much ever since COVID, we've seen a drop. And this is like a trend that we're definitely seeing. So that's like the backdrop, I think, of what's happening now. And in the larger presentation, we're going to go into, okay, exactly why is this happening? Sneak peek, it's due to acquisition strategies that we're taking on board and
Mhm.
different types of donors, which have different retention rates. But I think this is a really interesting trend. So we know everyone's struggling with retention and it is becoming a larger problem. So I think that's maybe the backdrop of the data to which the platform that we're building, and I guess have worked with many organizations since, is solving.
And
So
I love
when I
that.
talk
Can I
about
just, like, tap in real quick to that? Can you go
yeah,
back to the chart real quick?
absolutely.
So it looks like too, from like month 0 to month 1 is the biggest drop, and the rest of it seems pretty gradual. And I
Yes.
wonder why that is. I wonder if some of it is a mistaken recurring gift instead of meaning to give one time, or if there's not enough communication happening in that first month. I know that's something that I really teach, is make sure that they feel the impact right away so that they continue to give. Um, this is like fascinating. And I think it's something where we don't talk enough about retention. There's a lot of conversation on growth and acquisition. But if you're constantly pushing growth, but then you're having this problem with retention, you're spending money that you're just kind of like wasting. So you want to make sure that we can try, I would say, right, and like fix this retention so it's as your churn rate is as low as possible so that you're acquiring and then you're not having to lose that money.
Mm. So this is a really good call out. This is the biggest drop off, like right here. And I think there's a number of reasons for that. Maybe they didn't actually want to become a recurring giver, or the card never went through in the first place, for instance. But I think there's actually a misconception I want to clear up. A lot of donors think, hey, it's the first, a lot of donors, a lot of fundraisers think the first 6 months, if we keep them, we've got them
Mm,
forever. Like as if there's a threshold. Once a donor passes month 3 or month 6 or month 9. But what you actually really see with this chart is there's no drop off that happens anywhere. It's actually fairly consistent. And if you
yeah.
track this out to month 24, month 36, it gets really flat, but it's still going down incrementally. And I think it goes to show that every month is important for a recurring donor. You can't just say, I put in a really big effort from month 1 to 3 and now I've got them. It's really that
Right.
every month is important. There's no magical window where donors are really likely to go. Of course, the first 6 months, they are dropping a bit faster. They're dropping off a bit faster, but still it's this kind of like general downward trend in retention over time.
Really cool. Really good to see. Sorry, I cut you halfway through what you were saying into your next slide.
No, no, that's perfect. Actually, here's one sneak peek that I think is really actionable that I'm happy to share as well, which is part of this drop in retention is due to acquiring more donors who, by their nature of their acquisition source, maybe peer-to-peer, like face-to-face channels, they just have a shorter survival with the organization. They don't last
Mhm.
as long. However, when you look at the data for those donors acquired cold, you've never known them before, and we compare them to those donors who are warm, we've converted them from maybe they gave to an appeal or they sponsored a community event in the past. Those donors, here we are
Wow.
here, if we look at their lifetime value, they're almost twice as high in terms of lifetime value. They also have a retention 2.5 times longer. They'll stay with the organization 2.5 times longer overall. So if you want to build a really healthy, and Dana, you would know this as well, if you want to build a
Yeah.
really healthy recurring giving program, while you want to build it as quickly as you can, you want to top of the funnel, you want more recurring donors coming in. You also want to make sure which donors you're bringing in. And the first place you should be looking are your existing donors that might be giving single one-off gifts
Absolutely.
in the past. They're the ones that are going to stay around 2.5 times longer. They're going to have twice the lifetime value overall with the organization. So I think that's one I think that we know, but when you put numbers to it, you're like, wow, that's a huge difference.
Yes, and I wanna talk about I just thought Nancy, the summit, if you go to monthlyGivingSummit.com, and yes, this will be recorded. Yes, the summit will be recorded. I'm seeing your questions, Arnold and Nancy. Um, so how does if someone's using your platform, if they're using Dataro, what data points are telling the story of this one-time donor is a good fit for you to ask to convert to be recurring?
Good question. So we're trying to break down these data silos that exist in nonprofits. So first thing, you got to make sure you've got all the data. So maybe it's housed in a CRM, maybe it's housed in your marketing automation tool, maybe it's housed in a web or online or events platform. And once you have all that data, it's really easy to see that whole donor journey. So who is that donor, their acquisition
Mm.
source, their age, their gender? What have they been giving to in the past? Are they typically giving via mail or phone or SMS? Are they going online? Are they responding to your emails? Are they clicking? Are they
Yeah.
engaging with that content? Are they going to your website? Once you have all that information, AI, machine learning is incredibly good at picking out the patterns and saying, hey, I've seen this donor before. And in my experience, that donor typically converts to recurring. They're a really good prospect. And the output of that process, that algorithm, that machine learning, that AI, is this score here. So it's really easy for a fundraiser inside your system to say, hey, here are my donors 90+% likely to convert or upgrade or
Oh,
cancel.
cool.
You
Okay,
can
so
see
this is
these scores
literally like
really easily.
the dashboard. This is like what the platform would look
This
like,
is
and it
what
would
our
tell me
platform
this.
looks like.
Cool.
Absolutely. So
Oh my
all
gosh.
the data crunching's happened in the past. We've got systems to do that automatically to click and connect. But what you get to see, or what the fundraiser gets to see, is for every single donor. Here's Kathy. We've pulled her out of Razor's Edge, and she's got a 94% likelihood to convert. So great. Let's do something with this donor. Let's put her in a special journey just for conversion, whether it's email journey or a phone journey or SMS journey as well. Make it omni-channel. That's going to be really good at converting. But let's not try and convert all these other donors. Maybe there's a donor who's only 1% likely to convert. Why are we wasting our time on them?
Right.
Maybe we should just be sending that appeal ask or a different nurture journey as well. We can also give the ask amount. And actually, what's really cool about this for transparency, I know AI can sometimes seem like a closed box. We can actually, over here, we can see, well, why are we saying this person's so likely? We can give some reasons. Well, they're quite active. They gave really recently, and they have a decent gift size, and this is their preferred channel. Maybe that goes one way or the other. So that's actually a really good tool, not to just say who you should contact, but why you should be contacting them.
Yeah, it's so good. Okay, so tech question. This Dataro, does it integrate with your existing CRMs? Is that where like the magic happens?
Yes. So for most of our clients, we work with hundreds around the world, and you've got those big CRM platforms we integrate directly with. So Blackboards and Salesforce and Microsoft Dynamics and a bunch more. But also, that's not the only source of data, obviously. So we can also integrate with the marketing automation tools like Mailchimp or Salesforce Marketing Cloud, for instance, or the online platforms as well. Wherever there's
Okay.
donor
And
data, we'll obviously want to bring that in.
got it. Okay. So people, could they upload data directly to the platform too?
Absolutely. In the case you have
Okay.
special data, we have a file upload feature as well where you can do that. But for the most part, try and keep it seamless, like click and integrate
Yeah.
so it can happen automatically.
Amazing. Beautiful. And how much data do you need for AI to actually work properly and do its thing?
That is a good question as well. So the good news there is because we've worked with so many organizations, we actually have this huge data pool. That's where those insights came from. And what we can do with that is we can build these foundational models that say, hey, we've seen 100 million donors before. We've seen every type of pattern of giving for different types
Yeah.
of organizations. So we don't need to build specific models just for that organization. So if you're a really small organization, you might only have a few hundred recurring donors. We can apply those insights from other
Oh,
organizations and say we can
amazing.
still generate really good predictions based on that data, because AI doesn't really work well with a small amount of data. So we think this is a really cool way that even small organizations can get up and running. I think the minimum criteria is that
Mm,
you have a CRM. You're not dealing in spreadsheets only. You got to have
right.
some source of data that we can connect with. So if you're on one of those CRMs, then we're good to go.
This is so beautiful, and I just wanna, real quickly, why I love this is the whole point of and, sneak peek of my book is coming out. This is, the advanced reader's copy, but it's called The Monthly Giving Mastermind, and I run masterminds for a reason, and the reason for having the Monthly Giving Summit and all the things that I do are community coming together to help each other. Peer-to-peers, nonprofits helping nonprofits learn, grow, and scale, and you are literally doing that with the data insights, being able to help others inform their strategies. And so it might not seem that way because it's a AI numbers and zeros and ones moving around in the background, but that's the magic that's actually happening is organizations all around the world are helping to inform each other about how they can better serve and provide an experience to their supporters. And I think that's so cool that you don't need to be a massive organization in order to utilize a tool like this to be able to have those insights. So I just applaud you for taking something that you could have just kept at Greenpeace and not shared it with anybody, but really making this accessible to literally any organization. So I think this is amazing. Trinity has an interesting question. She was asking about what about a volunteer that has not yet donated? Will it pull info without gift history?
Really good question. So this is actually something we're very much actively trying to solve. You can imagine there's a lot of really good information about the gift history. Like that's really powerful signals for whether someone's going to give again or give a large gift or become a recurring donor in the future. But let's not forget the really important information you have before the gift, which would be, web browsing data, signing up for a newsletter, participating in
Totally.
events, sponsoring somebody's else event or volunteering, giving up their time, signing a petition. There's depending on the organization.
Mhm.
There's lots of
Yeah.
different data points and signals that we get in there, and we could get into the weeds a little bit, but typically most organizations are storing that data somewhere, whether it's in that marketing automation tool for whether they're clicking, whether they've got it in their CRM because they've connected those systems, or they have it in their digital platform or events platform. It's all in there. And especially when they've never given a gift, that's exactly the information that you want to look at to create these type of predictions.
Yeah, because I would imagine there's absolutely very high value on a volunteer or somebody signing a petition, basically saying, "I'm in. I have raised my hand to say that I am either giving of my time or support." And so that has a value that I'm sure AI associates with something on the back end.
Absolutely. It's all about the journey, right? They might be here on the
Yep,
journey, and what's the next best step? Let's get them one step forward. They might not be ready to become a recurring donor or a major donor, but let's get them like one more step on the journey. And that journey starts right at the beginning. It doesn't start at a gift. It starts right at the
totally.
beginning when they've, heard about you through a friend and visited the website for the first time. So we try and really progress everyone on that journey all the way up. And recurring
Yep.
giving is obviously one big part of a strong commitment to the cause, but it keeps going from there as well, right? These models can
Yeah.
predict really long-term things, including legacy gifts in will as well, which I guess has the longest horizon.
Yeah, and what's really interesting, I'm in my current monthly giving mastermind round right now, and one of the organizations, they have about 400 monthly donors, and there's sometimes this fear of, if we have monthly donors, will they be major donors? And one, it's a huge pool to find major donors. I'm sure the tool can probably help you with that, distinguish from your recurring donors who could be then a major donor. They had multiple people from their recurring giving program that had given for, I think it was like over 7+ years, recurring out of like modest amount, ended up giving endowments, which is incredible to the organization. So there is a lot. When somebody is a recurring donor, there's a lot of potential there for you to have further conversations with them about that journey. I realize the links aren't sharing on LinkedIn, so I'm going to share them after the fact. But just to show you here what's sharing on YouTube, you have 2 resources that I wanna make sure that we highlight real quickly for people and what they are to use them: the monthly giving growth sheet and the monthly giving forecasting tool. Can you speak to what each of these are? And then everyone on LinkedIn, I promise I will share all of the resources with you.
Yeah, let me talk about the forecasting tool. I think we put this up last year and we've had 1,000 people download it. It is, I think, the best way to understand exactly how many recurring gifts you're going to have in the future. So it's just a spreadsheet. It's on Google Sheets.
Oh,
You can
okay.
just click and try it. It's free. But all you have to do is plug in some information about your program. So how many active recurring donors do I have now? What's my average gift size? Really simple. We take that benchmark data that we have, all the information about typical retention rates, and we apply it to your data. So how many donors are you going to have next month, the month after that, all the
Mm,
way up to 5 years? So if you want to do a budgeting, a forecasting
yeah,
process, and understand what your program is going to look like in terms of your existing donors and new donors you acquire. So is my program going to grow? How much is it going to grow by? And how much income is that going to be total? This will do all of that. I think you can set it up in about 30 seconds. So really, really cool tool,
beautiful.
and I'd recommend checking it out.
Okay, awesome. I'll drop that definitely into LinkedIn right after this. And then to the growth sheet, or are they the same thing?
Some of the stats I talked about, heaps of interesting
Okay,
stuff. A
okay,
PDF, lots of interesting facts about how you should be growing your program, depending on if you're a
I
small,
see.
medium, or large size sustainer monthly donor program.
Okay, cool. There are some organizations asking about costs. I'm sure demos of the platform. Where's the best place for them to contact you?
Best place is there's a button on our website, a big button that says speak to someone or get a demo. And you can actually just book a time to talk with someone in your time
Cool.
zone, wherever that is. So we have people, I guess now we're in the US. So go on our website, www.dataro.io, and book a session and come chat with us. We'd
Sweet.
love to learn more and speak to you. It might even be me that you get to speak to.
You might have a
Maybe.
lucky winner. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tim, for everything that you're doing. This is so cool. Everyone, please come visit Tim's session during the Monthly Giving Summit on September 5th and 6th. His session will be on the afternoon of the 5th. And we look forward to seeing everybody there. Tim, thank you so much for joining me.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me, Dan.